Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben. This is my second weekly check-in. Everything I read last week, what I'm going to read next week, what do you want to know more about? Let's talk about it. Last week was in some ways more reading than I expected to do, but also less. So I picked up more manga and graphic novels than I thought I was going to look at this week, but I read less books, and I didn't get quite as far as I was hoping to with my audiobook. So we'll talk about all of that, see what I read, and then we'll discuss what I'm close to finishing for next week. We're going to start off with Kaiji Volume 5. This is an absolutely massive 500 plus page book, the penultimate volume in the gambling apocalypse arc of Kaiji. My understanding is that the publishing company Denpa is only licensed to get the very first arc of the series. They've only been releasing about one a year, so it's highly anticipated title. I was very excited to see this on the shelf, but Volume 6 is it, and I'm not sure there's going to be any more Kaiji, despite this being about, collectively, all 6 volumes being about only a sixth of the overall story that's been released so far. I loved this volume. I gave it 5 out of 5. This is one of those gambling manga that I talk about adoring so much, and here we have a very simple game, but the stakes are very high. I love the way that they talk about the feints and counter feints, and of course reveal how one side is gaining an unfair advantage. But the fact that Kaiji can even get to the point where he recognizes that is pretty incredible. So a lot of this is just people sitting in a room talking or thinking at one another. If that's not really your thing, then I would skip it. If you're a fan of the gambling or game-centered manga like Alice in Borderland or Kakegurui, or if you know Liar Game, this is another excellent one to pick up. This has also been adapted, at least the first part of it, into a couple of different movies, one of which I believe is available on Netflix, called Animal World. So if you want to get a sense of the kind of games and mind games that go on within the comic, you can look at that. 5 stars for me for this one. Check it out if you are a fan of that genre. Next up, I read volumes 10 and 11 of Akane-Banashi, and this continues to be one of my favorite modern day comics. It is one that I will continue trying to stay current with until the end of this ride. It is a story about a girl who is getting into rakugo, which is the Japanese art of storytelling. There are ranks that you can achieve, and then the higher ranks get the higher profile bits on the live shows. It was one that I was a little bit hesitant about because it didn't seem like something that could adapt well into manga, but I'm pleasantly surprised that it works incredibly well. I love how many different avenues they explore in the idea of like storytelling as a profession or as an art. We have characters who are very focused on the history of rakugo, and they go and find these old stories that no one's telling anymore. There are ones who are kind of pushing against tradition and trying to modernize it. There are ones who are very traditional. There are people who are like salesmen, and they use that salesman charisma to ease into this profession, as well as a voice actress who already did a lot of like voice work, but she's having to work on that live theater performance aspect of it. And of course, our main character Akane is also learning and growing and finding out her style as all of these other characters are explored around her as well. It really gives me the sense of a sports manga with a traditional Japanese art instead of a sport. So that's very cool. And it's been a while, but in volume 11 there was some more back matter that was talking about the art of rakugo, like the real world art, the things that actually apply to rakugo that come out of this volume. So that was very cool and very happy to see that come back again. There's a lot going on in these volumes. I gave both 5 stars. I absolutely love this title. If you have not checked out Akane-Banashi yet, do so. It's really good. This next one I picked up because I had heard so much about the title. It's getting a lot of buzz in the manga circles that I frequent. And I thought it wasn't getting a US release. So I went and found the Japanese copy of it, of Hero Organization. And I read it in Japanese to the best of my ability. I had to look up a ton of words because I'm not used to military terminology. There's a lot in here about like military organizations and things like that. Sorties and practice rounds and things that I'm not used to I've not come across before. So there's a lot of a huge learning curve. But this is available in English. It's on the Manga Plus app. So yeah, I could have just read it in English, and then I did read it in English, and I was pleasantly surprised. I picked up quite a bit about what was happening in the volume. So this tells the story of a father and son who are living in a world where our expansion into space has made us clash with these giant malevolent aliens, and so we've created giant mecha to go fight them. And the boy is like a kid prodigy. He's very good. He's winning all the like VR missions and things like that. So he looks like he has a very promising future in this militaristic society. And his father is an engineer for the mechs, but he doesn't really have aspirations of being a pilot. He is already kind of failed out of the test a couple of times, and so he's kind of lost hope. And he's living sort of vicariously through his son. They approach the father one day though and say like, hey, we're expanding, we're trying to get more of like the civilian side of people into the organization, so like, would you like to join? He initially pushes back on it and says, I have to be a good father for my son, but he eventually says yes and goes through the training and is on his way to becoming a hero. There is a major event at the end of chapter 2 that dramatically changes what this book is about. If you'd like me to talk about that and talk about the last 2 chapters of the book and where the story is heading now and my thoughts overall, let me know in the comments below that this is something you'd like me to talk more in depth about. A lot of people are really excited about this one because it's the first mecha manga for Shonen Jump in possibly ever, or at least a very long time, and so it's getting a lot of buzz in the manga community, at least the ones that I've been seeing, and I also really enjoyed this initial volume. So again, if you want a more in-depth look at this, just let me know down in the comments. All right, we've got The Dark Room, which was a recommendation for me from my librarian at the school I work at. So this is the story of a cursed camera and of all these malevolent forces trying to get a hold of it. It features werewolves and ghosts and Cthulhu-esque monsters, like great old ones, all wrapped up together in this kind of mystery story. I could best describe this one as just generically good and fun. If you're looking for a quick horror comic with some interesting world building, then this is a good pickup. It wasn't anything that I felt was groundbreaking or something that really drove me to want to read a follow-up for this book, although I know one is coming out and I will probably pick it up, but this ultimately ended at a 3-star for me. Pretty good, but it wasn't anything spectacular. I'm glad I read it and it was fun. If you want a quick horror romp, it's not too lengthy. It tells a decent story. It is complete in this one volume. We do get an arc of the story. So yeah, check it out if that is something that you're interested in. I also read a manga that I don't currently have here. It's part of my school collection that I've been amassing over time, and that is Young Girls Shouldn't Play Fighting Games, which was weird. I'm not quite sure the tone this book is going for, and I think that's its biggest strike against it. It's obvious that the mangaka, the person writing the book, has an appreciation and love for fighting games and knows a lot of the intricacies of like how you get better at fighting games. But its basic premise is this school for girls, like a preparatory school, which is has very like strict guidelines of proper behavior, and one of the things is completely forbidden is fighting games and video games of any type. And this one girl who is like idolized by everybody is secretly playing these fighting games, and a new girl who just showed up, I think she's newer, she finds out her secret, and that other girl is also a fighting game aficionado, so they start having this really bizarre relationship. And this is where I'm not quite sure what tone this was wanting to strike, because at times it seemed like over the top silly and like tongue-in-cheek and meant to be like humorous, and sometimes it felt like it was trying to be heartfelt and insightful and serious and real, and the silliness like outweighed that. It didn't quite, it never hit an even tone. So content-wise, I think it's great. I thought it was a lot of fun. My uncertainty with what kind of book this wants to be, it did end up being a 3-star, because I just felt like it had this inconsistency with the way that it was telling the story. I'm not quite sure how they're going to keep this a secret, and I'm not sure where the tension is going to lie as the story progresses. So for those reasons, I'm not as excited about picking up a volume 2, but I did have a fun time with what was presented in this volume. If you are a fan of like sapphic love stories, because that does seem what it is trying to go for, or if you really like fighting games and you want to see a romance where that is kind of the catalyst for the two meeting and building this relationship, then you do well to pick this up, because I'm not sure where else you're going to find that. And finally, I did finish Where Shadows Meet, my last Fairy Loot book, and now I'm completely caught up. So when they bring me one in a week from now, I can just read it and just be one and done. Every time they bring one in, one and done. So at the beginning of the year, I was 11 books behind in my Fairy Loot books. So I'm very happy that I managed to finally catch up. Where Shadows Meet has a lot of the same problems that a lot of the current YA titles are having. Excellent world building, very fleshed out. It starts off with different family trees, and I'm like, oh no, because like now I'm like studying for this book, right? But a lot of what is denoted on here comes up within the story. I don't really feel like you need to go through and memorize these, but this is a trend I'm seeing a lot in YA, is like before the story even starts, you have all these definitions and all these characters and all these diagrams, and it makes me a little wary of the book when I see that. So excellent world building. I thought it was very interesting. This is a sapphic vampire love story, by the way. Vampires are the descendants of a god that was cursed by her father, and then more or less driven out of the heavenly realm into Earth, and so can't be in the sunlight. Classic vampire. Because the father she killed was the sun god, and so he cursed her that the sun would always reject her, and also has to live off blood for their entire life. And there's all these rules about who can sire what, and like these people can make vampires, and these people can also make vampires if they bite someone and drain them enough and then like bring them back, and some can just like have vampire babies. So a lot, again, world building, very well thought out, internally consistent. Storyline, a little mixed on the story for me. So there is this problem of multiple POVs, which is not normally an issue, but when you put it in first person, it can be hard to switch gears, especially since there are a number of chapters from the same character's point of view. So you'll have like chapter 13, 14, 15, all from the same character's point of view. And then you'll shift over to another character who's in the same scenes as that first character. And then they'll have a chapter. Then it'll go back to that first character again. And there was no like rhyme or reason to it, which again can be done well, but I feel like is better in a third person perspective, because then you get that reinforcement of this character is doing this thing instead of I feel this way and I'm doing this, but the I within the story is like three separate characters. The perspective was a little bit of an issue for me. The storyline is also okay. The characters, again, we have some insta love. They're falling in love within the course of days. There was also this weird thing where we had a character's perspective for multiple chapters. We really got a sense of who they were and what motivates them. And then toward the end, and this is not like a surprise, but they are the antagonist of the story. And so when getting their dialogue and their behavior at the end of the story, it was really off-putting, because on some level you're empathizing with this character, you're sympathizing with them, you see what they've gone through, but on the other hand, they're being just an absolute jerk at the end of this book and not listening to reason. And so that is also a bit of a problem, is this weird, it's not even character inconsistency. It's just like, how am I supposed to feel about this character? Was I not supposed to be identifying with them at all throughout the story? In which case, why have those chapters in there? Anyway, it ended up as a 3-star. Okay. Like the world building, story was fine. Characters were okay to not great. So yeah, but if you like vampire fiction and you just need another vampire fix, you need a quick read. I read this in a day, so it's not like it's a difficult book to get through. If that is your jam, then I would pick up Where Shadows Meet. Let's quickly talk about my plans for next week. So one of the reasons why I was saying that this week was not what I was expecting it to be is I had 2 goals for this week, really. Well, 3. Last week I mentioned finishing Where Shadows Meet, finishing Nights Volume 2, which I did not do. I'm only about a chapter into this. And then I really wanted to finish Dune. I've been reading Dune since February. So this coming week, going to prioritize Nights Volume 2, going to finish up Dune. I've only got, I think, a little over 2 hours in the audiobook, so I should be able to finish that tonight or tomorrow. And then I wanted to pick up some more of my TBR titles, things that I've not gotten to because I've been fixating on the Fairy Loot books so much. So I have picked up Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is one that I'm looking at not only because I'm personally interested in it, but we are looking at possibly using it next year for our AP classroom as one of the reads for the year, because we didn't really have a science-y book. We had a lot of like political books this last year, didn't really have a science one. So I think that would be a good fit, and I'm going to take a look at it and see. So this one I should be able to get through this week. And then also just something off of my 25 for 2025, we have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. It'll either be this or it will be You'd Look Better as a Ghost, because I'm kind of in the mood for a horror/thriller for this next week. So those are the plans for next week. Sure, there's other stuff I'll grab as well. Come back next week. I'll check in again, let you know what I've read. Let me know down in the comments any of these books that you're interested in, anything you want me to do a deeper dive on. I definitely want to encourage that that community element to YouTube. So let me know if there's anything you want me to talk more about or do a little bit deeper dive on, do more of a spoiler review. As always, I hope your reading journey is going well. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can grow this corner of our BookTube community. And until the next one, take care.